Earlier, we also spoke to Jaideep Khanna of Barclays Capital, and he says Bharti has a robust financial position in India and they can easily sustain their business. He also believes that Zen deal will allow Bharti to enter into higher growth markets.
The Bharti management believes that acquiring the Zen assets is a unique opportunity for Bharti to extend its business model into Africa. They believe in the value proposition and the opportunities that the African continent present to them. And if we look at Bharti's financial position, the business in India is extremely robust. It's cash flow accretive, and the debt burden, particularly the interest burden, is not something that, as financiers to the transaction, we believe is unmanageable for Bharti. So, all in all, we believe that while there is a significant debt burden, the Bharti management is quite focused on this, and they believe that they have several options to reduce the overall gearing. And even if they were not to do it in the near term, the current cash flow position and the Bharti business can quite easily sustain this debt level. When Bharti looks at the Zen assets in Africa, it sees enormous potential. It sees the ability to replicate its business model in Africa, to enter high growth markets which are currently less competitive than the market that it operates in India. And therefore, the value that the Bharti management feels that they are paying, and which has been endorsed by Bharti's advisors, financial advisors in this transaction, they believe is quite fair.
And staying with Telecom, the Reserve Bank has eased investment norms for telcos. This will allow Indian telecom companies to invest in international submarine cable consortia through automatic route. The banks can allow remittances by Indian companies for overseas direct investment. However, the RBI says domestic companies should have international long-distance license from the Department of Telecom. Meanwhile, the food inflation continues to defy gravity despite government's measures to control them. ET Now's policy editor Ganapati Subramaniam says the Reserve Bank may have to finally crack the whip decisively to bring inflation under control.
A bitter taste in the mouth for most Indians as food prices continue to rise. Official numbers show consumers paying through the nose for their daily bread. Overall, food inflation at 16.35% is marginally higher than last week's number. And for many staples, prices are rising faster. For example, the price of pulses have gone up by more than 30%. Milk is dearer by nearly 19%. And wheat is more than 13% costlier. The government has been saying that food prices would come down, but its own data seems to contradict that claim.
Now, once the base changes, you will see that the inflation rate also comes down. I think predominantly it is not a high inflation, price inflation that you're seeing. It is more base inflation.
Since high food inflation is a hot potato, the government may keep subsidies going for the time being. But with prices staying hard, the Reserve Bank might be provoked to go in for steeper interest rate hikes soon. Suchetna Ray and G. Ganapati Subramaniam, ET Now, New Delhi.
The Prime Minister Manmohan Singh said that inflation could be contained by the RBI's monetary action and that further monetary easing could have in fact stoked inflation. But he also warned that monetary policy would be ineffective without fiscal discipline.
This is not to say that monetary policy has no role to play in the face of fiscal imbalance. However, its role in that situation is essentially defensive, of avoiding monetary expansion to accommodate the deficit, since such accommodation will only stoke inflation. The problem is that monetary discipline in such a situation may help contain inflation, but it will not offset the negative impact of large fiscal deficits.
Speaking at the RBI's Platinum Jubilee celebrations, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh said the government is aiming at cutting fiscal deficit to 4% by 2012 to 2013.
We allowed a large increase in the fiscal deficit in the past 2 years as we responded to the global economic crisis. This must now be reversed. This involves a reduction in the fiscal deficit from 6.8% of GDP in the year 2009-10 to 5.5% in 2010-11, with a further reduction in the next 2 years, reaching 4.1% in 2012-13.
Meanwhile, speaking today in New Delhi, Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee said that he sees India's economic growth at around 8.75% in fiscal 2011.
Projected in the economic survey that it will be anywhere between 8.25 to 8.75. 8.25 is the minimum and 8.75. That's why we are making a mean around 8.5.
And up ahead, Bajaj Auto reports a whopping 85% jump in motorcycle sales in March. Auto sales hit a new record in the just concluded FY10.
This show brought to you by Bank of India, relationships beyond banking. LIC of India.
Design. Bravia. Sony.
The market is always reacting to economic fluctuations. The demand-supply curve is always shifting. How does one then achieve the correct equilibrium?
Get the biggest market voices and analysts answer your critical queries. Get the stock advice that creates maximum value for you at the right time and at the right place.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Friday. The country's largest two-wheeler maker, Bajaj Auto's motorcycle sales jumped 85% to 2,44,828 units in March. The company attributed the growth to robust sales of Pulsar and Discover range of bikes. Meanwhile, the financial year 2010-2011 has started on a great note for automobile companies. Sales grew in top gear in March despite the hike in fuel prices and excise duties. Sumit Chaturvedi finds out that small players like General Motors and Ford grew the most.
Pranab Mukherjee's February budget hiked manufacturing taxes on cars and led to fuel price hikes. Car makers were worried whether all these would dent sales. But March numbers are in and car sales are as robust in the last month of the financial year as they were in other months. Selling over 1 million cars, Maruti Suzuki grew by 29% in FY 09-10 compared to 08-09. March sales were 11% more than last year. Sales of India's second largest car maker Hyundai have also jumped by 19.2% in March compared to last year. Mahindra & Mahindra's car sales, excluding tractors, jumped by 20.3% in the same month. But the highest growth has come for smaller players like Ford and General Motors, for whom the success of their small cars Figo and Beat helped sales grow 203% and 127% respectively. Clearly, competition is revving up, but market leader Maruti Suzuki is prepared to take them on. With an even cheaper version of the Alto, Maruti Suzuki's highest selling car.
Much more expensive than the 800.
Are trying to bring the price?
And we will keep trying to do whatever we can to make it more and more affordable.
Two-wheeler market leader Hero Honda sales jumped 17%, while TVS Motor and Suzuki sales have grown by 24% and 76% respectively. Now automobile companies are waiting before announcing another round of price hikes, inevitable when Euro 4 norms for fuels are implemented, because car makers have had to invest more to upgrade vehicles. Athar Khan and Sumit Chaturvedi, ET Now, New Delhi.
Shifting focus from automobile to steel, India's largest steel maker in public sector SAIL has now announced another round of price hike. The price hike is in the range of 2,000 to 2,500 rupees per ton and will be applicable on both long and flat steel products. SAIL has attributed the price hike to increase in prices of raw materials.
Depending upon products, 2,000 to 2,500 rupees. This month, I suppose the increase is of the order of about 2,000 per ton, which is about $35, while globally prices have moved up by almost $70 to $80 per ton.
Meanwhile, JSW Steel is planning to invest 25,000 crore rupees at its Bellary plant in the next 3 years. The money will be used to expand the plant's capacity to 16 million tons. The company also plans to invest in infrastructure to develop roads, railways and power plants. The details of the investment are still being worked out. And Ravi Ruia, the vice chairman of SR Group, will move to London to spearhead the global business of the group. SR Shipping, Ports and Logistics, one of the group's subsidiaries, said in a statement yesterday that Ravi Ruia has resigned as a director with immediate effect due to other commitments. The billionaire Ruia brothers, Shashi and Ravi, founded the SR Group of companies that takes its name from the initials of their first names. And Wockhardt plans to sell its nutrition business to health company Abbott have fallen through. This a whole 8 months after Wockhardt said it would look to sell its brands Ferrix and Proteinix to Abbott. 18 Hours Prashant Chandavarkar has the details.
Well, the High Court decision has clearly been affected, and with good reason. The debt restructuring program that Wockhardt had introduced a few years ago came with its fair share of allegations that made by the unsecured creditors that it favored the secured creditors. An allegation very similar to many other cases that we have seen only recently in the Bombay High Court. We have also noticed that the Bombay High Court has been very sympathetic, ruling in favor of these unsecured creditors, especially when they are owed a large amount. In this case, nearly 40% of the entire debt. So Abbott may have preempted where this case is going and thus terminated the deal.
If you have a car and you stole roads, get ready to shell some more money. The NHAI has hiked the fee on 24 stretches of highways. Athar Khan finds out how big the hike is and where it can pinch.
Those long drives on tolled highways are going to get a little more expensive from today. Commuting and freight charges will rise because the National Highways Authority of India has hiked toll rates for 24 roads across India. On average, toll rates are up by 18% across 24 major stretches. Road users will pay 76 paisa per kilometer on these stretches. Major cities that will be affected are Agra, Chennai, Hyderabad, Lucknow and Udaipur. These cities will see a single journey costing around 9 rupees more than before. Out of a total of 145 toll plazas in the country, 98 are public and the rest are managed by contractors who have developed the stretch on a build, operate and transfer basis. Meanwhile, the Roads Ministry has put off changes in the National Highway Fee Rules of 2008, which will lead to a uniform tolling structure. The empowered group of ministers on highways, headed by the Finance Minister, is still silent on the issue. Until those amendments come along, it looks like the fee hike will take a heavy toll on road users. Athar Khan, ET Now, New Delhi.
L&T and Rolls-Royce, the global power systems company, have signed a nuclear energy pact. The two companies will jointly work on light water reactors in India and internationally. Light water reactors are in use in over 60% of civil nuclear power plants operating worldwide. And are you worried about sagging apparel exports? The government has come out with yet another booster dose for this employment-intensive sector. Faizan Khan says much more needs to be done to revive the garment export business, in which smaller nations like Bangladesh and Vietnam have stolen a march over India.
Yet another stitch in time by the government to rev up garment exports has come in the form of a 400 crore rupees boost